He put her in his bed for 7 years. Karl Tanzler was a German radiologist who was held in high regard, but only because they didn't know what he did at night. What atrocity was this doctor perpetrating behind closed doors? Karl arrived in the United States escaping the consequences of World War I. The land of opportunities was a miracle back in that era, but he made use of this land to commit one of the most shocking atrocities of recent times. Before perpetrating said act, the doctor worked as a radiology technician and helped his patients in an ethical manner, but his life would eventually take a turn with the arrival of Maria Elena Milagro Hoyos, the future muse of a living nightmare. Karl fell in love with her right away. However, this was far from being a love story. Although Elena suffered from tuberculosis, a disease that in the 1930s still had no cure, Karl would prove to be even more harmful than that. But why? According to him, when he was young, the spirit of a relative had shown him the face of his true love, and that was Maria. This is why he decided that his life would be tied to hers forever. But don't be fooled, because this was the start of a catastrophe. Despite all the treatments and experimental medications Karl tried to prescribe, Elena lost her life. Devastated, he asked the family for permission to build a mausoleum in her honor, which he would visit every day. However, it would be the first and last time he would show any kind of respect, because after this, Karl would commit an act that would be deemed insane, justifying his vicious acts by using the word love. What atrocity did he commit? Karl took the body with his own hands and took it home, where, in the most Dr. Frankenstein way, he tried to bring it back to life. He tied the bones with wire and hangers and removed the decomposed organs, which he replaced with rags soaked in embalming fluid and Chinese cinnamon. However, what he placed in the lower part of her body was even more shocking. Karl also covered the detached skin with silk and wax. He replaced the eyes with glass and used the remaining hair to make a wig. She seemed ready, but he needed to do one last important thing. Then he pretended to marry the corpse, and believe it or not, they even had their honeymoon. He inserted a metal tube into the reproductive organ to consummate his obsession. This hideous act went on for 7 years, until rumors started to circulate. Karl was taken to trial, but to everyone's surprise, the community felt bad for him, and he was released shortly after. Elena's body, on the contrary, was studied and exhibited as part of a show. So she was buried in secret to avoid more curiosity seekers or, in the worst case, a second desecration. Karl unfortunately could never forget her, and it is said he was found lifeless, hugging a new doll made out of love, or shall we say, made out of his vicious obsession. Always be eager to know more.